so much, Mariam. Our next speaker will be presenting the talk, Coaching in Chaos. Please welcome Mr. James Dodd.
I was listening backstage when they did the introduction. They talked about experts or expertise, and I'm like, okay, I'm a father, I'm a husband, but I'm not gonna claim to be an expert at either of those. It doesn't be held to a different standard when I get home. They're gonna hold me to everything I say. And I'm a teacher, but I teach all day, so I was like, that's not what I'll talk about. I said, let's try coaching, because that's something actually that I have done most of my life. I've actually been a coach for 30 years. I've done that more than anything else that I've been involved with. And let's see. I chose coaching because, like I said, it's something that I think I knew I wanted to do at an early age. It was something that was interesting to me, something that was exciting for me. And also, I felt like the last 3 or 4 years, I've become more reflective in the practice. I had an unbelievable opportunity in the last couple of years to meet with an MBA coach, became good friends. Of all places, this summer I went to Whole Foods and met a legendary coach, 89-year-old Hubie Brown. And got to talk to him for about an hour. And it's just a topic that's close to my heart. But first of all, I want to explain how I decided to come to this topic, because it's something I've been heavily involved with my staff and something I've been heavily involved with my own approach to coaching. I love the topic of behavioral economics. I'm a history teacher. I love nonfiction. I love studying all sorts of things, but I think this is a field that's really grabbing me. And these are books that I've read lately. They all deal with, I can read right there, the studies of effects of psychological, cognitive, emotional, cultural, social factors on decision making. How we think, how we behave. I think we're almost in a new enlightenment period of understanding human behavior, which I think is critical. And during COVID, it was a golden time, because for me, as far as when it comes to study. So I just started burying myself in books. This one, it was one of my favorites. Adam Grant's a terrific author. And I was really taken with this quote up here from the book. Our convictions can lock us into prisons of our own making. And he really hit on the topic of intellectual humility. Here I am coaching for 30 years. Actually, my first coaching job was when I was 19 years old. I coached at the International School of Manila. Took a year off from college. And I thought maybe I knew I was the expert on everything when it came to coaching. That there was not much left for me to learn, which is not exactly too humble. But I love the whole idea of rethinking and unlearning. And I really like the idea that our convictions lock us in a way. And I really needed to open up. And I needed to rethink many things that I had thought in the profession. Another thing was the book Nudge. This idea right here, a choice architect has a responsibility for organizing the context where people make decisions. And so immediately after I read it, I was like thinking of a classroom. I mean, sometimes they talk about building and structures and where they put the break room, or where they put the restrooms so people congregate in certain areas of a building, an office complex. They talked about lots of different things. But it also was about how you design your learning. And I started to think about how I designed things when it came to basketball. This picture on the left was the first time I ever saw anything that came to coaching. If you look at the date on it, kind of tells you how old I am. 1981. So I was 11 years old. And when I got that, I'd never seen that before. I played sports, but I'd never seen the X's and O's and diagrams up there. Didn't know what they meant. I was fascinated by it. And so I actually cut it out and put it on my wall. It helped also that my aunt went to the university, was a teacher at the University of North Carolina. She's a professor. So she actually got me Michael Jordan's autograph as a freshman. which I lost. Yeah. I saved Sam Perkins' autograph, which he's up there as well, but I'm sure the value is different. But I just love that picture. It wasn't just basketball at first. I played football, and I was very interested. This is another, around the same time, about a year later. This is the actual coupon that I cut out of a magazine and sent in so I could get the Gatorade playbook. There was something in me, even though I loved to play, maybe I just wanted to control everybody while they played too. And I remember sending this actual coupon in an envelope with a bunch of quarters in there. From Oslo, Norway. I'm a diplomat kid. Of course, it promptly got sent back. My mom explained to me, that's not how you order things. We're gonna write a check or we'll put money in there. So I got it. I loved it. I learned the early frustrations of coaching. We'd be out there at recess. It's nothing like playing tackle football in the snow. And I design a play, tell the kids at lunch to study it. We go out there, everybody just does whatever. And I started learning early though. I just thought this is what I wanted to do eventually. I had notebooks filled with all sorts of stuff. Basketball became the sport though for me. I studied everything. I just loved the whole process. I studied every passing game motion set you can imagine. I was like 17 years old, and I could tell you the difference between shuffle offenses used in the Midwest. I was studying the triangle offense before Tex Winter went over to Chicago and started inputting it with Phil Jackson. I just would study everything. I was so fascinated with it. Every time I watched a game, I wanted to see it different. I wanted to really understand the process. How are they doing these things? It was just very interesting to me. But here we are in COVID. I'm reading all these behavioral economics books, and I've been coaching for a long time, and things are going all right. I've had good teams, good success at times, and sometimes you learn. And then I see this article. Now, it's an older article, but a friend of mine sent it to me from the Washington Post. I'm going to read it to you because I think it just changed my whole mindset when it came to how I approach the game. Basketball ended up acting more like a self-organized system. In these systems, order comes out of what looks like chaos, even when the stimuli that organizes them is random. Flocks of birds are self-organizing, so too are bees that come together to build a hive that has its own structure or logic and structure. Those two words, chaos and self-organization. Anyone who's ever coached a sport, especially a sort of a fluid up and down game, soccer, hockey, lacrosse, basketball, knows it can appear to be chaos, and sometimes it is. And as a coach and wanting to control everything, that can be incredibly frustrating. That's why you see those coaches throwing chairs on the court or their faces getting red and they're screaming at their players. I was a player, and I remember not always listening to my coach. He just played. And we figured out as players how to self-organize ourselves. That's part of the process. And the teams that I feel that self-organize the best are the teams that win. I just had a team go to Misag, and we were down 18 points. And we had this miracle comeback, 20-0 run at the end of the game and won. And I had people come up to me, great coaching job. I kind of said the same thing every time. They self-organized. They got it done. And so this made me think a lot more about the profession and about what I've been learning. Coaches can be control freaks at times. We want it done a certain way. But are we doing it in the most effective and efficient way possible? Chaos and the need for effective and efficient self-organization. As coaches, we want to assist our players in the process by being the choice architect. We create the context for players to make those decisions. That's the critical element. Providing the right context, the right play design to influence decision making. The quote at the top by Napoleon, "The battlefield is a scene of constant chaos, the winner will be the one who controls the chaos." I don't know if I completely agree with it because I don't know if you can control chaos. Good luck. That's why so many of us coaches have blood pressure issues, I think. So I wanted to figure out a way. I was determined. I got this little office in my house, there's a little hole where I just sit there and love to work. And I was obsessed with figuring out how can you design a system that helps kids self-organize better, a better system. I felt I already had a background. I understood offense. I've studied it for years. I know a lot of different things that people do. And there's a lot of good things that come out of that. How can we put it all together and make it work? The key words were effective and efficient. And so I thought first, what are the obstacles to it? The first one, if a self-organizing system becomes too static, it gets run down. That's when you have something I call illusion of control. You can't control everything. And when coaches get obsessed with it, they run their practices like that, and the game starts and they're surprised that it's out of their control again. And then they get technical fouls and they're screaming and yelling or whatever. I know all of you watch sporting events, you see this behavior. It's funny, my daughters and a lot of the kids in the student body like to make fun of what they call my Dodd squat, where I literally sit down like this. I'm not going to do it now because it's painful. But I think I can control something. I don't know why I do it, but I think it's me trying to get people to do what I want. It's an illusion. There's an illusion of control. If it becomes too chaotic, it breaks apart. I've known coaches that are obsessed and everything has to be done the way they say. And then I know coaches are like, you know what? The best way to do is roll the ball out. I don't think that's the best way to do it either. It just adds to the chaos. If you talk about flocks of birds and groups of bees working in patterns and working together, yeah, well, that's in their DNA, I think. Basketball players self-organizing the court is not in their DNA, unless LeBron James or Michael Jordan. It's kind of foreign to them, and it can get kind of crazy out there. So the idea is to find that balance. So I met with my coaching staff, my dear friends, Mr. Williams and Mr. Howe, and talked about, this is actually what I said. I outlined and put it on the board. Said team offenses we have to look at are complex adaptive systems. Therefore, we find that we must strike the balance between player allowance and coach's direction, because we want the players to own it too, but we got to provide some direction. We want fluidity between both. I like to tell our guys, I'll create the offensive design, but you must make it yours. And by doing that, you will learn to self-organize in the court, take ownership. I can tell you this, the comeback that we had in MESAC was owned by players. I'll take credit if you want to give it to me. But it was owned by players. They did that. So how do you do it? First is appreciate the complexity. It's a complex process designing an offense. Formations, different actions, plays, kids' skill sets, personnel. There's so many variables that go into a game. So you have to embrace that and understand it is complex. You can't just roll out the ball and say, yeah, it'll work. You have to look at everything. Then identify the simplicities. So the simplicities are critical. So what we would do is take ideas that are complex that have been used for years. A Philly action that was used in the 1950s, or a split action that's used in the 70s, or little different 2 or 3 man actions. We looked at all these offenses that run 5 players and all these confusing patterns where they're not really self-organizing, they're just doing what the coach says, and broke them down into little smaller actions, 2 or 3 man plays. It made it easier. And then you take it and you put it together. Now, I can't sit here and go over the entire offense. That would take forever, right? But we resolved it through design. I love this line. We took a look at all the different simplicities taught using conceptual understanding. And this line here, when simplicities mix, complexities become endless, is one of my favorite lines by John Lewis Gaddis. a terrific teacher at Yale who wrote a book called On Grand Strategy. And he uses the line from Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Basically, they describe that a chef has all these basic ingredients, the simplicities, but makes something beautiful out of it. And that's the complexity. And he's taught certain things, but he makes it. He owns it. A musician can be given certain beats or certain instruments and say, here you go, and they'll make something beautiful out of it. They take ownership. They do it. He talked about an artist. Here's your colors, and they do something with it. They take, when simplicities mix, complexities become endless. And it was a line that I really feel, when we started implementing and teaching it this way, it really became something special to watch. Thank you very much.